All right, we are live. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, 2020, and I want to welcome everyone back to our Facebook page. My name is Michael Quidall, Digital Marketing Specialist for the New Jersey School Boards Association. Once again, coming at you live through the power of Cisco WebEx, trying our best to flatten the curve and always practice social distancing. NJSBA has been hosting Facebook Live events to address questions from boards, school administrators, and educators throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. If you want to replay any previous broadcasts, click the videos tab on the left-hand side of the NJSBA Facebook page. That's where we have all of our previous broadcasts, live videos, and other videos that you might be interested in. And make sure you click that like button right now on our Facebook page so you can be notified when we do go live in the future. Quick note about the rest of the week. Tomorrow, April 30th at 10 a.m., we have an interesting program. We're going to be talking about what supports will be, what will be available in New Jersey schools in response to the COVID-19 pandemic through the CARES Act and the Stabilization Fund. We're going to be joined with Elizabeth Evans of the NJSBA Grant Support Team, and we're going to be talking about updates from the past week. Everything is changing so rapidly, so she's going to be joining us on the program tomorrow at 10 a.m. And that event is actually a follow-up of last week's webinar, recent funding made available in the education sector. If you want a replay of that webinar to kind of get caught up to speed, you can go to our webpage, njsba.org, under the webinars tab. That's where we have all of our previous webinars. Today, we're going to be talking with John Henry from NJSBA and Mark Broga from the Department of Environmental Protection about conservation and how protecting the environment starts at home. We're going to be examining ways to conserve energy, water, and other resources. We will also discuss ways to protect and benefit indigenous wildlife. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how to save some green by being green. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to be monitoring the comments section today during and after the broadcast. So if you have a question, you have a comment, or you just want to say hi, drop it in the comment section below. I'll forward it along to our experts. Whether you're a school board member, administrator, teacher, or even a parent, we're here to serve you and help you work through this difficult time. And I say this on every live broadcast. Finally, I just hope that everyone is doing okay and everyone and their families are healthy. So today is my pleasure to introduce back to the program in his weekly 10 a.m. Wednesday spot, NJSBA's iSTEAM and Sustainable School Specialist and Lead Green Associate, John Henry. Good morning, John.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to be here again, as usual. And before we start, I want to give you a shout out. You've been doing an incredible job with hosting these Facebook Live events, twice and sometimes 3 times a week. So, just a quick shout out to you. It's just an incredible
thanks, John. I appreciate that.
So we have Mark, as Mike said, we have Mark Rogoff on today. And I met Mark probably around 2002 with the ANDE group, the Alliance for New Jersey Environmental Education, where I served on the board and he was on the board and he was also on an advisory committee. And then him and I went into do work with the U.S. Green Building Council New Jersey chapter, where we did Teach at the Beach, where we were bringing literally hundreds of students to the beach, where some of them never been to the beach before. We were teaching them environmental education and all about green building. And I'll tell you, the one thing that was what stood out for me with bringing students like that to the beach was and teaching them environmental education. They were so engaged in what they were doing. So environmental education and teaching outdoors and about ecosystems, an incredible thing. So Mark, I'd like for you just to introduce yourself for this your role, if you could.
Morning. And welcome. Hi. Yes, Mark Brogoff with Environmental Education Specialist with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Been doing this now I've been doing environmental ed for about 40 years. Hate to say that. Makes me feel real old, but the gray in the hair confirms that as well. So what I was asked to talk about today is how environmental protection starts at home. So I've been doing environmental ed in the state for a long time now, and I travel all over the state. I go to I go to schools, I go to environmental programs. Just gonna angle the camera down a little bit here, and you can see some of these models. This one here got it, John? See it? Everything good?
Yeah, looks good. Yeah, looks good.
Good. All right, this model right here is made to represent a beachfront area. We can use this to demonstrate sea level rise, storm surges, and resiliency. And students get to play with the model a bit. We put water in there, and you get to make waves and different ways to protect the environment and the homes that are on the beach and on the shoreline. Another thing I have right here, real quick, this is something that you can definitely do at home. This is a microscope. Doesn't particularly look like the kind of microscopes that you see in school, but this one, as opposed to being one that you see in school that runs about $400, this one cost me $15. I've seen them as low as, and you can buy them on eBay, have them shipped right to your home, plug it into your computer, and this has a magnification. This says up to 1,000 times, but at that point, up to 1,000 times, it gets so fuzzy you can't see a darn thing. It goes to about 400 with it being very clear and crisp. And I wish I could show you, but if I plug this in, then my camera, I lose my camera on the computer, and you won't see me anymore. Or you won't hear me either. But one of the coolest things to look at actually is sand. And we're going to have on the DEP's website an entire presentation just on sand called Sands on Science in the coming months when I can eventually get back to my office and work on it. But because I get to travel around a lot, today is very interesting because I get to travel today and you get to travel with me in my own backyard. So
Mark, I want to jump in here. So this, I believe, Mike, is our first NJSBA live from. And Mark, and it's going to be live from Mark's backyard. But I think everyone's going to be really pleased with what they see. Mark has, from what I know of Mark, he builds most of his props and environmental education tools that takes to schools and brings them up to conferences and conventions, and just has a wealth of information about this stuff. So. And yes, we are going to continue the theme of sustainability starts at home. And, we launched last week, we did a design challenge, again, and that was the theme. It was sustainability starts at home. I do believe that it can start from home. It can start at schools, and schools are the epicenter for sustainability. So what we do in our schools and our homes matter when it comes to environmental education and sustainability in general. So while schools are, out right now, I think this is also a really good time for Board of Education and the leadership of schools to take a look at their policies, their strategic plans, their board goals, and to try to sustainabilize that. So when students come back into the schools, we hopefully will have healthier places at lower operating costs. So Mark, so I want to, not to waste any more time, I just want to jump into what you're going to be talking about. So Mark has set up a tour of his backyard with a variety of stations, which each one of them actually represents ecosystems, environmental ecosystems that you could do at home. So Mark, let's just jump in. So, I know you told us a little bit about your role, about the DEP, and we've been working together for years, but, let's see your backyard. So let's rock and roll.
You got it. Okay. So as John mentioned earlier, we've been doing this for a while. I was a school teacher. John, you were a school teacher as well. Did a lot of the things in my classroom that I do in my own yard, and tried to get my students to do the kind of same things. And everything that I talk about today is stuff that you can actually bring to the school when school is back in session. And schools can do the same type of things. We have programs on our website, which will bring up at the end the logos and everything, and the information for contacting us. But we do all kinds of programs with schools that deal with gardens and, well, basically what I'm going to be talking about. And so today, right now, I brought you to one of my multiple bird feeders. In the past, you've interviewed people from the National Wildlife Federation. I was on their advisory council, their education advisory council for several years. And one of the things that they require for certification for, you can get your backyard certified as a backyard wildlife habitat. And you need to fulfill four things to do that. You need to be able to provide for the wildlife food, water, shelter from the elements, a home, basically, and protection from other predators, mostly, as New Jersey Audubon will point out, and you've interviewed them as well, house cats, which do more damage to indigenous wildlife than the indigenous wildlife does to itself. So here I have a bird feeder station that has 5 different feeders here. You can see there's very little wind right now. I have a little weather station on top. But I've put in a variety of different types of foods. In the back, there's a suet feeder. That basically means it's animal fat. But any type of fat is really great for birds. Summer is not the best time to feed the birds because they get ample food. But come fall, that's the best time to actually put out a lot of bird food, especially the high fat stuff, because that's when they're doing their migrations, and that's when they need that high calorie food. So you're going to get a variety of different birds. When we first set this station up 25 years ago, and we sat out on our deck, which you'll see in a moment, within an hour, I believe we counted 15 different species. And seeing the birds come to the feeder is really rewarding. These little jewels that come you can see I have a hummingbird feeder as well. It's not filled right now. They don't need it yet. They're not coming out here yet. The flowers aren't in bloom really. But the little hummingbirds, our smallest bird, they're beautiful. Only bird that can fly backwards. But I put in right now just a variety of different seeds. Sunflower seeds are good. You'll notice that different birds eat different things. The ones with the big bills, like a cardinal, they love those big seeds and peanuts. The ones with the tiny little bills go for the smaller seeds. You're going to find that your bird feeders are going to attract mostly house sparrows. The English house sparrow is not indigenous to the United States. It's not a native. It's actually English, which is why it's called an English house sparrow. So same thing with the house finch. They're both, and starlings as well, are all from Europe. But the kind of birds that you might see here that are native include different types of finches, woodpeckers. That's the suet feeders. They love those. Yesterday, I saw a red-bellied woodpecker, came right over the top of the bird feeder here. Didn't land because I was rehearsing this and didn't want to get close to me, but it was hanging out in a tree waiting for me to leave. But if you listen right now, if I just stop talking, you'll be able to hear a lot of the birds, and even if though you can't see them, you can hear them. And that's actually a wonderful activity. It's called birding by ear. And all you have to do is stop and listen. I hear cars. I hear somebody mowing their lawn. But this is an activity you can do. Try to come up with as many things that you hear at any one time. I hear 3 different species of birds right now. You can eventually, by birding by ear, there's another one over there. It sounds like a song sparrow. You can identify the birds by their call without actually seeing them. And some birds, they just give themselves away completely. And they tell you their name right in their call. So if you hear a chickadee, you'll know it's a chickadee because it says chickadee-dee-dee. And a towhee says towhee, and so forth. So and other birds say other things. Like if you hear a bird that sounds like it's yelling cheeseburger, 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 you're hearing a cardinal. Other people say it says other things. I like cheeseburger. This is our little bird feeder and station, and that's one of the 4 things that wildlife needs. It's food. All right, so we're going to now move to another location. I'm going to pick up the camera. John, you want to say it again?
So Mark, so what's really cool about backyard environmental education and doing the things that Mark is going to show you in your own backyard is, I mean, this is like math, observation, data collection, hands-on activities. You're outside. It's healthy. Kids and adults love that. Mark's gonna show you a composter and a little bit of a gardening stuff later. Those are great things that are all for looking about, emotional health, right? You do these things and you're engaging in these things in your backyard. What better place to do it at home? So, yeah. Mark.
All right. So as I said, I was a teacher. I used to bring my students outside all the time. Birdhouses. I have a. Can you see my little birdhouse? It's one of many birdhouses. This one has been frequented by wrens, and there's a downy woodpecker that just landed right over here. I'm not going to move the camera because I don't know if I'll get it in time. But oh, he's so pretty. Birdhouse, this one, wrens have been coming back here year after year. I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years now. I had to put up a second one because the second generation that was born here many years ago now roosts in the other birdhouse. But right here, here's a water source. This is a bird bath. And if you're putting out a bird bath, you're going to find the birds will occasionally just drink out of here. They'll also bathe in here. But here's a few tips. Change the water every couple of days, every 2 days, 3 days, to keep it fresh. Also, you want to break up the surface of the water by putting in some rocks, or in this case, I put in some coral I found on the beach. What that does is it breaks the surface tension up, and any standing water here in New Jersey is going to attract what should be our state insect, the mosquito. Our state insect is the honeybee, but and they're not even native to the state. They're from Europe as well, came over with the colonists. But the mosquito will find any standing water, lay their eggs, and the larvae, which grow in the water, keep their tails to the surface. Tail of the mosquito is actually where it breathes through. And as long as the surface is not, if the surface is flat and even, they can beautifully get they can get their tails up there and they can breathe. If you break the surface tension up, they can't breathe, so they don't breed, and it keeps the mosquitoes out. So you want to put in things that allow the surface tension to be broken up. You don't want it flat water. It also, by breaking up the surface tension, allows you to, for butterflies to also drink, because they have a tendency to not like flat water either. So that's a bird bath and a bird house. And I have several other bird houses in the in around here. We want to make sure that it's out of the reach of cats. You also want to keep them separated a little bit. You can put up other types of houses. I used to have a bat house. Bat houses are great. Bats are going to eat about 1,000 mosquitoes a night. And they're actually, don't worry, they don't get in your hair. They don't suck your blood. We don't have any vampire bats here in the state of New Jersey, except for in the Cape May Zoo, I believe is the only one that has one. And bats are a wonderful thing if you have a garden. Not only are they going to supply you with getting rid of the mosquitoes, but they also produce something called guano, which is great in a compost bin. So I'm going to move over to the compost bin now.
Yeah, Mark, that's a lot of information about a bird bath. That's great stuff. Who knew? About the I like the surface water. Breaking the surface water tension. That's great.
Another thing you can actually use to keep the mosquitoes away is you can go to any home store and buy something called a barley ball or a barley brick, and like DEET, for example, the stuff that is in most bug repellent, barley repels the mosquitoes so that they won't lay their eggs there. Whatever you do, don't put bug repellent. The wren just passed by here. Don't put bug repellent in the bird bath, because when they drink it, they can get sick and die. So you want to keep the water fresh. As I said, change it every 2 days or so. So here, I mentioned compost bins. Got it? Can you see it?
It looks good, Mark. You got it.
All right. So this is just one of multiple compost bins that I have in my property. And compost basically is just decaying vegetation that can eventually be used as the perfect fertilizer. It basically is a soil maker. And topsoil, if you're not aware, topsoil is what provides all the world with its food. And topsoil is called topsoil because it's the soil on the top. It's the first, usually about 2 inches of soil. And that's where all the nutrients are. And we have a house finch and a cardinal at the feeder right now. I walked away from it and now they're there. So what you do with compost is basically any type of clippings that you take, vegetative clippings. So mowing the grass. Am I out of the, okay, let's stand right here. Mowing the grass, cut the leaves from the trees, if you rake that up, all of that can go in the compost bin. You can also put in house plants that you don't want anymore, or throw them in there, that or the soil from there. You can also put in scraps from your table, food scraps that are vegetation. Don't put any meat, don't put any dairy in a compost bin. You can put in ash from your fireplace or your fire pit, or if you have a chimenea, all the ash from good wood. Don't put in any pressure treated wood in the fireplace. That releases chemicals. You don't want to burn pressure treated wood. You want to burn natural wood. But you can put in the ash. Make sure, of course, that the ash is no longer hot. If a compost bin is working properly, you put your hand in a couple of inches in, it's going to be warm. That's the bacteria actually decaying the materials inside the compost bin, and that means it's working. So a couple of inches down here, I actually can raise this whole thing up. This compost bin is homemade. It was made using old pallets from that I got from a store that wasn't using them anymore because they were cracking. So they gave me 4 pallets. We made the compost bin out of that. And this whole panel opens up. I can access the fresh compost. Another thing you can put in compost that most people don't realize is coffee grinds. Not only are they going to decompose beautifully, but now your compost bin really smells like coffee. It's a wonderful thing to walk past and breathe in the aroma of whatever coffees you like. You can even throw in the coffee filter if it's a paper filter. That decomposes as well. But if you're using something like a Keurig cup or one of those little one serving, I don't want to specifically call out Keurig because that's saying a specific brand, and my department doesn't approve of us featuring specific brands. So when, of course, talk about Home Depot or Lowe's, I'll call them home stores. But if you're using one of those single serving cups, most of the time people just throw them away. But I'll talk about throwing things away next. But you can actually pull, if it's paper, pull out the filter, take the grinds, pop them in there.
Mark, how long?
I had a coffee filter here. Here it is.
Okay,
so
cool.
Coffee filter, decomposing slowly.
So how long do you think the compost needs to sit in the bin before you can actually use it on a garden or something like that?
It depends on the compost type. This is an open air. There are others that are enclosed. Others that roll. You can get a compost bin at the home stores, different variety. Depending upon what you want to do with it, some compost bins can have compost ready within a month. You can have material ready for fertilizers. Some you have to wait until the following in the next year. You can go to the bottom and then all the good stuff is there. Keep on piling the other stuff on top, mix it up a bit. You want to aerate it. Often I'll come around, I'll just take a post, stick it in, and put in some holes to let the air get in, to allow the bacteria to really work on that. And so it depends. Again, you can take compost activity. You can actually take a workshop on composting with, depending upon where you live in the state of New Jersey, every county has a cooperative extension office, a soil conservation district. I live in Monmouth. We have the Freehold Soil Conservation District. But all of them are run through a cooperative extension through Rutgers, and all of them offer composting workshops where in many cases you actually get the earth bin, I think they call it, which is a compost bin, sits on the ground. It has an aeration. You turn the top to allow for different levels of aeration. You can amend it with different things. Occasionally, if it gets too acidic, you put in some lime. You can buy those at the home stores. But the workshops I've seen run usually between $30 and $50. But if you were to buy one of these compost bins at the home stores, they're going to run you the same price. So you get the workshop almost free with the compost bin. And it's a wonderful thing to have if you want, because it's going to be recycling your materials to make new stuff out of it. So it's a great little fertilizer right there. I did mention not to use dairy, but there actually are places where you can use dairy. Crushed up eggshells are going to be a perfect deterrent to slugs, keeping them out of your garden. So if you crush up eggshells and you pour them around the perimeter of your garden, it's going to keep slugs away. Another thing you might want to keep away are cats, or not cats, rodents. And a way to do that, which seems a little odd, is if you know somebody who has a cat and they use clumping cat litter, you can take some of the clumps using your gloves that everybody's wearing for COVID-19 anyway, and you can crush up some of that around the perimeter of your garden. And what that does is it makes the outside of your garden smell like a predator, and the rodents will stay away. Keep it away from the vegetables, though, that you're growing that you intend to eat. It's not something you want to get in your food. But speaking of garbage, we're going to go over there now.
It's great stuff, Mark. I have a ground-based composter where I just put all my wet organics in and coffee grounds as well. And I've had that for about, say, a year and a half now. And I cannot believe how many worms that are in there, of course, which is producing the fertilizer, the quality of fertilizer that you want. And I've been using it for, potting soil. So.
And as Mark gets set up, I just want to also reiterate, if anyone has any questions or comments, just post it in the chat in the comment section below, and I'll forward it along to Mark or John. Really anything that you've seen. We're going to be covering a couple more topics, I know, but yeah, if you have any questions, drop it in and I'll forward it along to Mark. So Mark, you got some garbage is next to you.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Head cut off. Is my head cut off? Am I in the image here?
You're good, Mark. You're good.
Okay. All right. Everybody in the state probably has a garbage pail. I'm hoping that's the way. And the garbages here are green, and the blues are the recycling bins. So obviously, the stuff that you can probably see, I have another bird feeder above me over there. That one pulls them right close to the kitchen window. So in the morning when you're making your breakfast, it's nice to watch the birds eat as well. Recycling. I mentioned the Keurig cups. Most of them are not labeled as recyclable, but they actually are. The only part of a Keurig cup that is not recyclable is the little plastic aluminized film along the top of it. Pull that off, that goes in the garbage. Compost the grinds, and usually the plastic piece is the type of plastic that can go into a compost bin. I'm sorry, a recycling bin. Here in the state of New Jersey, every town has to is required to recycle. There are several different types of plastics that are out there. If you want to bring up that image of the recycling bins with the different types of plastics, I can mention that, talk about that. Okay, beautiful. All right, so the country breaks the plastics down into 7 different types. You are required in the state of New Jersey to recycle numbers 1 and 2 all across the state. That's the law. So every municipality has to have facilities to recycle PET and HDPE. You can read what these represent. But some towns can actually recycle more than 1 and 2, depending upon whatever contracts they have or whatever recycling facilities they have available to them. So some towns will actually recycle 1, 2, and 3. Some towns will recycle 1, 2, and 5. Other towns will recycle 1, 2, 3, and 5, and the variety. Most do not recycle 6 and 7. Those are different types of plastics. And the reason why these are not recyclable together is because what happens with the standard recycling is that the plastics are sent to a facility which takes the plastic materials and they chip it. They break it up into tiny little broken pieces where then those pieces are then melted down and made into tiny little spheres. And then they sell those spheres to other companies to use the raw plastic. Those different materials melt at different temperatures. They also have long chain polymers, which means the carbon molecules that make up the plastic are different sizes and break down over time. And the more that they break down, the less resistant they're going to be and less effective they're going to be at things like holding your food products or the water in a water bottle or soda. And so you don't want to recycle different materials that don't belong. So for example, a standard soda bottle has a cap that is a different type of plastic than the bottle itself. The tap should be taken off when you put the recycling in. And if your town doesn't do the type of plastic that is the cap, that should go in the garbage. Other things that can be recycled and go into your recycling bin in your town, if it's commingled, which means they take everything. You can take this picture down now. That means they take everything all together, is cardboards and paper. And not all paper is the same. Not all cardboard is the same. So if you buy a pizza, which, hey, it's New Jersey, everybody buys pizza. If you're going to buy a pizza, it comes in a box, and when you're done with that pizza, usually within one meal, because you 3 or 4 slices, you got a couple of people, they're gone real quick, especially in this house, in my house. Check your pizza box. If there's any area where the oils from the pizza have stained the box dark, that box, or at least that part of the box, cannot go into the recycling bin. Cardboard is also chipped up, and when that goes into the machine that chips it up, the oils gum up the machine, and so it cannot chip it up properly. They have to stop everything. You want to make sure that you either rip that section off and throw that in the garbage, goes in that side, and the box that isn't contaminated by food goes in the other. That's also the reason why you should take all the things that you do recycle and rinse them out before you put them in the recycling bin. Food leftovers and things stuck to the microwave bowl that is recyclable kind of mess up the thing. The other thing that really messes up these recycling bins are the plastic bags. So everybody keeps saying, oh, we have to ban the plastic bag. Actually, plastic bags recycling is more effective than paper bag recycling. They last longer. The paper breaks down quicker than the plastic bags do, and you can make more plastic bags out of them. They have long chain polymers that really hold together well, so you can keep on making plastic bags out of them. And it uses less water than the recycling of the paper does. The problem with the plastic bags is not that they are not recyclable, it's that most people throw them away or they get away. Your garbage truck picks them up and misses, and it goes into the wind, and there's a plastic bag in a tree over there. And so the plastic has a tendency to get away. If you recycle it properly, by not putting it in the recycle bin, but taking it to the supermarket, bag up your plastic bags or reuse them, use them in your own garbages to hold your garbage, bring them to the supermarket, they recycle them there, they make new plastic bags out of them. So the plastic bag is not the enemy It's just not recycled properly. And when they do get into the environment, if they make their way into the ocean, they resemble food that a lot of marine life likes to eat. Another thing that also resembles food that marine life likes to eat are balloons, latex balloons, and the latex gloves that everybody, not everybody, I shouldn't say that because that's terrible, but a lot of people are throwing onto the ground. I've seen so many places where there are latex gloves now in the street, in the parking lots. They'll eventually make their way down to the storm drains where they'll get into the ocean and animals will mistake them for food. And we don't want that. So we're done here with our garbages for now. And I'm going to bring the camera and myself to another location.
So I think it's important. Thank you, Mark, for that. I think it's definitely important to check your township website to see what is in fact recyclable. Check the numbers. A lot of great tips from Mark. John, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, I mean, Mark's doing a great job of giving us some backyard. I know he's going through this quick. Mark is has a lot of information. I mean, his position at the DEP over a number of years, he knows a lot of this stuff. This is what we do at school boards as well. We practice these. We're trying to inform our board members and our school staff members and leadership to what they can do in schools, and using these as teaching tools as well. Again, to keep with the theme of sustainability at home, this is a place that you can do these things. And Mark will probably tell you that you can get a lot of these items right at your own home, right? You don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. You can see if you're crafty enough, and you use your imagination and your creativity, you could build a lot of these things at home. So I'm sure that's what Mark did, and he'll explain that later. Go ahead, Mark, you're all ready. We're going to do a little rain harvesting now.
All right, so you can see, you got me in the view here?
Yep.
This is one of my rain barrels. A rain barrel is aptly named. It's a barrel full of rain. Isn't that a Grateful Dead song? Anyway, what happens is any rain that falls on the roof comes down the drain here and goes eventually into this barrel. We're very good here in New Jersey at keeping the rain from getting into the ground. And that's actually naturally where the rain wants to go. Well, it doesn't want to go there, but that's where it should go. Because what that does is, as it sinks into the ground, it eventually gets down to the groundwater, which is water under the ground, recharging what we call recharging the aquifers, or putting more water in that we've been taking out. New Jersey residents, of which there are 9 million, all use water, and they get their water from basically 3 places. We get our water either from well, which pulls water straight from the ground, water, which needs to be refilled as you take it out. We get our water from reservoirs, which are usually man-made lakes or real true lakes that collect the water, and then we filter that water and send it to our residents. Or we get it from the Delaware River, depending upon where you live, that's where you get your water. So if you have municipal water, they can be getting it from a well, they can be getting it from a reservoir. My community is in Monmouth County, we get it from a reservoir. Depending upon where you live, if you're up in Bergen County, you're getting it from reservoirs that are actually up in New York. So depending upon where you are, that's where your water comes from. But water isn't free unless it comes from the sky. And in this case, we're getting our free water going into a rain barrel, collects our water. And when it's not raining and you need water for your gardens or for your plants, this water can be utilized. This is standing water sitting in here. So you want to make sure that mosquitoes are not going to get into this. So in the case of this rain barrel, I have a wire mesh, and that I actually held that in place with a Frisbee that I cut open to hold the wire in place better, because I was finding that when you just put the mesh on and glue and tape it in, screw it in, it kind of let go a lot. But the Frisbee's been really good. And here at the DEP, we actually give away Frisbees. So if you really need a Frisbee, we can give you one that has Smokey Bear on it. This water can be used for all different purposes, except for this is not potable, this is not drinkable. You don't want to touch that. Water that goes through your property, goes through your house. Can you bring up the image of the house with the water? Beautiful. Water that flows through your house is usually, once it's used, it just goes down the drain and out of your house. But some houses that are really environmentally friendly, we can reuse some of that water. Gray water, as we call the water that can be used a second time, can be used for other purposes. So water that's gone through your sink can actually be reused. Water that goes through your toilet is not gray water. You don't want to reuse that. But water that goes through the sink can be used for irrigation in your yard, as long as you're not using heavy detergents. If you're using soaps that naturally break down, that's fine. You can use that. And we actually use a tremendous amount of water, even when we don't realize we're doing so. So, for example, next slide. For lunch today, you may choose to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you actually need about 40 gallons of water. That doesn't make sense, does it? How could you need 40 gallons of water to make a sandwich? Actually, I used in the wrong number. It's 25 gallons of water. And that's how much usually fills one of these small fish tanks. 25 gallons of water. That is pretty confusing that it uses that much water. So let's find out why it uses that much water. Next slide. Typical sandwich, peanut butter and jelly, requires peanuts. It requires some sort of fruit. It requires wheat, and it requires sugar. And all of those products are plants. And what do plants need to live? Water. So to make a single peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you need the products that needed 25 gallons of water. Next slide. But that's not a lot. 40 gallons to make a single cup of coffee. Next. Okay, just so you know how much 40 gallons is. 750 gallons to make a cheeseburger. That's enough to fill one of those propane tanks. And 3,000 gallons to make a pair of blue jeans. So obviously, you need to grow something in each of these cases. For the coffee, you need coffee beans. For the cheeseburger, you need a cow. And that needs to have a lot of food, needs to eat a lot of vegetation. So you need a lot of water for that. Amazingly, it takes 5 gallons of water just to make the slice of cheese. And for the pair of blue jeans, you need to grow cotton. And that is a very water-intensive product. So obviously, even in New Jersey, we don't get enough rain to grow cotton very well. So because there's just not enough of it. So we use a lot of water even when we don't realize we're using it. So water conservation is very important. You can't see it here. You can go back. You can go back to me. You can't see it here, but I don't water my yard. I don't water the grass in my yard. Never have, never will. The grass itself, can we go to that grass picture?
Yeah, I think it's over.
Yeah, when you find it.
There we go.
There you go. All right. The grass that I grow on my property, which I actually started with when we moved into the house, it was all Kentucky bluegrass, which is the grass on the far left side of that image. And Kentucky bluegrass, which sounds like it should be from Kentucky and should be blue, is neither from Kentucky nor blue. And actually, it's from Europe. It's a British strain. The flowers, when it does flowers, the flowers are blue, but the grass itself is nice and green. And the Europeans coming here as colonists all wanted the same grass that they used to grow at home. Kentucky bluegrass has become the most popular type of grass in the United States. They changed the name to Kentucky bluegrass because that sells better than calling it British green grass. But you can see in the picture here that Kentucky bluegrass is very thick and the root system goes about 2 inches deep, which does not allow for water recharge or the infiltration of water into the ground. It mostly pools up on the surface. So if you're watering your lawn and water pours into the street, you might as well turn the water off because the street isn't going to grow. You should also not water your lawn in the middle of the day because it's going to evaporate a good 30 to 40% of it, maybe even more on a hot day. Water in the mornings, probably before 8:30, and in the afternoons and evenings after 4:30. Another thing you can do is look for native grasses. All of the other plants in this image are native grasses in the United States, and you can see that those root systems go extremely deep. They reach down for the water, so you don't have to water these plants. They grab their own water naturally. Also, the root systems hold the ground in place. They provide stability to the soil. They also create all these openings that allow air, nutrients like nitrogen, and water to get into the ground. So, although the grasses that I grow here in my yard are not in this image, I've taken out as much of the Kentucky bluegrass as I can, and I've replaced it with tall fescue, blue fescue, and a few other native grasses. Every one of the home stores sells the native grass varieties, and they're not more expensive than the Kentucky bluegrass. Usually they're in smaller bags though. But you can go in and you can ask for those specific grasses. They'll show you where they are. Another advantage to the native grasses are the animals that have been here, native animals that have been here for hundreds of years, even before colonists came here, use those grasses as food as well. They don't usually eat the Kentucky bluegrass. It doesn't provide any nutrients for them. It's not as good for them. They like to have the foods that they like. It's going to attract the different wildlife. And don't worry, they grow fast. So it's not like they're going to come in and strip your entire lawn bare. And you don't have to water it and spend all the money on fertilizers. I mean, my next door neighbor's yard is nice and green almost all year long. Makes my yard look nice and brown, or even browner than it would look. But he also spends, I think, $4,000 a year just to keep his grass green. And the funny thing is, he's what we call, oh boy, he doesn't live here all year long. He has a house down in Florida. So even though his grass is nice and green, he's not even here to see it. So I'm gonna now move to another spot.
Mark, we're gonna have to wrap up. We're almost out of time. But so, do you have any close? And I know, and just so everybody knows, that Mark can go on for like 3 or 4 hours with this stuff, and it's great information. It really is. So I'd strongly recommend you reach out to Mark. He's going to share his, or you reach out to me. But Mark, do you have any final comments or where you can be reached? Because this is really, really great stuff. And I think this could really benefit a lot of students and a lot of families in their backyard and in their homes in general. I know we were going to talk about some energy.
The last thing I'll mention then, in your house, you can do a lot of things to save energy. You can keep your thermostat at a lower temperature so that you don't have to use the heat. My house, we keep a temperature nice. We keep it low, although my wife would prefer it higher. But we keep it low, and we also are very frugal in our energy use. If you're doing dishes, make sure that you fill the dishwasher entirely before you turn it on. You fill your washing machines before you turn them on. Your dryer is very energy uses a lot of energy. It's one of the few things that cannot be what we call Energy Star certified because they use so much energy. And so if you use your dryer, make sure that it's full before you use it. Don't just try one pair of pants or something like that. I'm standing in front of one of my blueberry bushes. That's another thing that easily grows in many places along the shore, along the coastline. But there's all kinds of plants that you can grow on your school property or in your backyard. There's a group called the Native Plant Society. They can help you find plants that are specific to your area, that are native, not there, indigenous types of plants. They're going to attract indigenous wildlife. You can go to them. You can contact me. Our Fish and Wildlife office also has a specialist in native plants, Liz Jackson. John, you know her too. She's a specialist in native plants. And she can also make sure that you get in contact with places that either sells them, or in many cases, we actually department will have a time where we'll offer them. So you can get your hands on some native plants for free, which is a great thing to do. All of these things that I've mentioned, these ways to protect the environment, are also ways that you can protect your wallet. They save money doing a lot of these practices. And that's important because saving money is one of the few things that is going to make people really change their habits. You could tell people over and over and over again, don't do that because of this or because of that or because of your own health. Really, if you tell them this is going to save you time and money, that's going to have more of an impact. And so if you want any information about that, we have a program on our website, which we'll bring up at the end here, on what we call our SEEDS website. SEEDS stands for the State Environmental Education Directory, called More or Less, Environmental Protection, What You Can Do at Home, at Work, and in the Office. And I can either come to our facilities and do that presentation, or you can download it. But that gives you hundreds of things that you can do around the house, around the office, and around schools that will benefit you financially, chronologically, as well as environmentally. So thank you very much for having me. Do you have that slide with my contact information?
I can put that up here. Yeah, go ahead, John.
While Mike is doing that for contact information, again, I want to remind everybody to please feel free to reach out to me as well. School boards does a lot of sustainability with schools. We work with Mark, we work with other organizations as well. And as Mark mentioned too, there's a lot of folks who work at the DEP who are specialists in specific areas. They have great stuff, like some of the things that you only heard, really, realistically, you only heard a snapshot of what Mark does and the DEP as well. I also want to remind everybody that on our Steam Tank Facebook page, we are going to be posting information about this program and other things that are happening with our Steam Tank at home. I also will be posting another design challenge in the next few days or so, keeping the theme of sustainability. We're trying to post a design challenge every week on our website. There are full-blown instructional designs for teachers to use, and there are scenarios and design challenges for students. So please go to our website, either our iSteam Services website, to find those design challenges, or our Facebook Live too. What we're trying to do here is create a community of learners while we're at home. So Mark, I want to personally thank you for your time today and also for doing the first live from. So thank you again.
It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed doing this. And of course, as you said, we could go on for hours and hours. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact me. The contact information you saw, the websites included the DEP's homepage, our education homepage. School facilities is something for your school boards to look at specifically, as well as your facility managers. The last one there was the Angie website for the teachers and anybody interested in learning a little bit more about our state's environmental alliance, Environmental Education Alliance, which John and I are both members of. and have been for a very long time. We do a series of workshops during the year, two major ones. But obviously, we're not doing anything with groups right now. But when everybody gets back together, I also encourage people to go to the SEEDS website, sign up for our Environmental Ed News listserv, which anytime something of information that I feel teachers and environmentally educational interested public should know about, I post it on our listserv.
Great.
Again,
Great.
John,
Thank you so much, Mark.
It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just want to say thank you again to Mark, to John, to the DEP. Great program, a lot of great helpful things you could do around the house and in your backyard. And we have the time right now. A lot of people, looking for things to do during the current climate and initiating some of these things they do. You can do inside and outside your house. It'd be great for your wallet and great for the environment. So, thank you, Mark. Thank you, John. I want to thank everyone for watching the program live and on the recording. For future Facebook Live events, everything will be announced through School Board Notes and through our Facebook page. So if you haven't already, click that like button. You're already here, so you can be notified when we do go live in future broadcasts. For the latest information, bookmark www.njsba.org/COVID-19, and I'll put that in the comments below. That is our landing page for everything COVID. That's our resource page, and it is updated daily. It's a great resource. So for more information on NJSBA Facebook Live events, just follow us right here on Facebook. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and I hope everyone stays safe. And we will see you back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Next week.